From working with killer cows to working with killer whales, here are 12 of the most dangerous jobs involving animals. 12. Farmers and ranchers. Now, farming might not be the first thing that comes to mind when talking about dangerous occupations, but planting crops and raising livestock, among other duties, do come with the share of risk. Along with the danger inherent in working with motorized vehicles, slips, trips, and falls account for many injuries, and dealing with livestock can present its own share of potential dangers. Horses are known to cause numerous injuries, with around 20 human fatalities each year. The majority of those injuries are connected to riding horses or being thrown by them. And while cows present a placid image, the livestock can become a powerful menace if provoked. Cows can become fiercely territorial when protecting their young, and have even been documented to coordinate group attacks with efficiency. More than 20 human deaths are attributed to the bovines each year in the US. 11. Wildlife biologist. So do you think this sounds like a dangerous profession? Wildlife biologist is a job that allows one to combine a love of animals with science. They study the environments of animals, along with populations and demographics of the critters as well. Now, as such, it requires some field work to gather up the information, and it can be a springboard to greater things, like publishing books or hosting TV shows. Jeff Corwin was a wildlife biologist who went on to fame and fortune, as did Steve Irwin. Now, in the case of the latter, of course, the crocodile hunter was filming a documentary series in Australia in 2006 when he was attacked and killed by a stingray. Now, not to say anything like that would necessarily happen to any other wildlife biologist, but it does illustrate the potential danger that can be inherent in the profession while working in the wild. 10. Veterinarian. Now, more often than not, the first job you think about that concerns animals would be this one, veterinarian. Along with the love of animals, a candidate had better have a lot of love for math and science, and then get some stellar marks to go on to veterinary school, which can be as difficult to get into as medical school. Like medical doctors, vets can deal with some unruly patients, except these patients will bark, spit, or hiss, depending on the species. Agitated dogs and cats will bite and scratch, and those vets that deal with livestock like horses or horned animals have the risk of being trampled or gored. And like humans, animals can carry diseases. The ones that cross from animals to humans, called zoonotic infections, can include rabies, toxoplasmosis, and hookworm. And after spending hours around pet hair and dander, you might get a case of dermatitis or allergies. And needless to say, if you want to be a veterinarian, you better really love those critters. Eight. Snake charmer. Now, this profession can trace some of its roots back to ancient Egypt, but the practice as we recognize it today likely started in India. It's still common there and can be found in several Asian nations, including Pakistan and Malaysia, as well as North Africa and Egypt and Morocco. Now, typically, the snake, which is usually a type of cobra, appears to be hypnotized by the snake charmer, who waves around and plays an instrument called a pungi. Handling of the snake, along with other apparently dangerous acts, are also included in the street performance. Now, since the snakes typically used in the performance are highly venomous, this can present a definite job hazard, to say the least. So to help protect themselves from receiving a fatal bite, the charmers will sometimes have the snake's fangs surgically removed, and sometimes herbs are used to paralyze the snake's jaw muscles and inflame the venom glands, and in some cases, the snake's mouth is even sewn shut. But even with those precautions, would you want this job? 7. Bear man. Wildlife rescue refers to wildlife rehabilitation, or the treatment and caring for wild animals that are sick, orphaned, or injured, with the goal of releasing them back to the habitat. In the case of Jim Kowalczyk, He rescued an orphan Kodiak bear cub more than 20 years ago, and it's stayed with him ever since. Now some 1,500 pounds, the beast is named Jimbo, and he seems a lot more playful than the average bear. So much so that the animal will pluck a marshmallow from Kowalsk's mouth and leave the man's face intact. The only damage done is a huge slobbering kiss from the bear. Videos of Jim cavorting with Jimbo have helped increase donations for the wildlife center they operate 60 miles northwest of New York City. But experts advise against getting quite so up close and personal with bears. And that's because a wild animal's instincts might take over. Not to mention getting crushed by a creature that weighs 3/4 of a ton. But the animal rescuer has no fear of his friends. In fact, they have more than 10 bears on the premises, and Kowalczyk maintains his hands-on approach with all of them. Hopefully, those bears will not bite the hands that feed them. 6. Wildlife photographer. It sounds like an awesome gig for someone who wants to combine their photographic skills with a love of animals and wildlife. Now, these photographers can travel about the globe, seeking out exotic creatures, and are known to patiently wait for days on end to get that perfect shot or angle. And while it must be a thrill to see your name credited in publications like National Geographic, the profession is not without its share of risk. The natural habitat for wildlife can take you to some pretty remote and desolate areas, maybe in a jungle, or a primitive region where medical care is nowhere to be found nearby. And you aren't dealing with domesticated critters out there either. Diseases like malaria can be present in some environments, and animals in the wild can be unpredictable to say the least. Did you know, for instance, that in 2016, a photographer in Kenya was trampled to death while trying to get a picture of an elephant that was drinking at a watering hole? 5. Snake whisperer. So we're going to follow up on that segment about snake charmers, because here's a guy that just might be a real-life snake whisperer. Vava Suresh is an Indian wildlife conservationist, but he might be better known for being an expert and a fearless snake handler. In his career, he has captured and rescued an estimated 50,000 straying snakes, and he's paid a price for his dedication too. Suresh has been bitten more than 3,000 times by all types of snakes, and bitten 300 times by venomous serpents. Because he doesn't use any safety equipment, Suresh has made 6 trips to the intensive care unit and has been put on ventilator 3 times. He's received numerous awards for his work, and his efforts to educate people about snakes are widely acknowledged. 4. Animal wranglers. In general, they're hired to handle animals, very often horses, but other animals can be involved as well. The profession was first documented in the 14th century. Now, in movies and TV, the animal wrangler can also be someone who searches out certain creatures for various types of entertainment. When it involves the use of wild animals, a trainer is usually recruited to make sure the critter responds to its cues accordingly. And when you think of a lion tamer, the image of a man at a circus holding a chair and cracking a whip might come to mind, but today it's more about training than taming, getting lions and other big cats to respond to various cues. Now, even so, a trained animal is not necessarily a tamed animal, and one need not look any further than the tiger Montecore attacking Roy Horn during a Siegfried and Roy show in Las Vegas in 2003. Surprisingly, we found that sharks can be trained as well, although maybe not for a featured movie role, but scientists do say that the big fish can learn signals to roll over and to feed like dolphins from keepers. And according to experts, they even like to be cuddled. 3. The jaws of death. Now, even if it looks like this guy has a death wish, such is not the case. He is an animal trainer at the Samutprakan Crocodile Farm and Zoo in Thailand. Throughout the course of the show, the trainer will stick various limbs into the croc's mouth, daring it to take a bite. A high point, depending upon how you look at it, is when the trainer sticks his head directly into those reptilian jaws of death. Several sources referred to this stunt as the horror show, and you know what? We are inclined to agree. The Crocodile Farm and Zoo holds these shows daily, and they claim to have the world's largest crocodile there. It is named Yai, and this beast is said to measure almost 20 feet long and weigh more than 2,400 pounds. Could they pay you enough to take this type of dangerous gig? 2. Animal control officers. If you get involved with this line of work, you're going to deal with all types of animals, from domestic pets to wildlife, depending on the location. And speaking of location, your job could be located any place from a service truck to a national park. Animal control officers investigate reports of mistreated animals and will take action according to the situation. Now, often these officers will attend to abandoned animals or pets that have been left unattended by the owner. And that can sometimes result in an aggressive animal attacking, because part of the job can involve accompanying police into violent situations like drug busts, domestic disputes, or murders. Animal control officers can encounter dangerous actions from humans at the scene as well. In fact, some officers claim that the scariest situations encountered have not been caused by the animals, but by the humans, who can be armed and confrontational. The use of bulletproof vests is not uncommon, nor is the use of pepper spray, tranquilizer darts, or firearms, including shotguns and rifles. While some of the jobs in this field do include dog catchers and humane officers, there is a potential danger in dealing not only with the animals themselves, but also with the humans who own them. 1. Commercial fisher. Well, there's fishing, and then there is commercial fishing. Now, those people engaged in this sort of work not only use rod and reel, but also nets and traps to catch fish and other marine life that'll be used for human consumption, bait, or for animal feed. It is strenuous work with a high risk of injury while on the job. Drowning accounts for the majority of injuries or fatalities, but it's not uncommon for commercial fishers to be attacked by the catch. For instance, venomous jellyfish have been known to sting the captors when caught in trolling nets. Statistics from 2016 indicate there were 86 deaths for every 100,000 full-time fishers, and that's the second most fatalities of any job.